In early 2020, through the power of the internet, I connected with a gentleman who was looking for the owner of the bus that was in the movie The Graduate. And he explained to me that he was the producer of a TV show or a upcoming TV show that was exploring the locations of famous movies. So an episode of his show is going to be about the movie The Graduate. And the location specifically that he was going to use, for part of it at least, was the back of the bus that was used in the movie. So all of this transpired just prior to the COVID pandemic really kicking off. So we didn't anticipate much of a delay to get to him filming the bus. But then about that time, the COVID did kind of start ramping up and everything started shutting down there in that March. So we decided to delay until we had a better sense of how things were going to work. So by the time the summer rolled around, we found a window that was going to work for both of us. And he made the journey with his production crew to our house to film an interview with me as well as the bus. So the executive producer's name is Ted Rouse, and the name of his show is Lights, Camera, Location. Here's a little snippet from the intro on his website. So as of 2020, 2021, he's currently working on the first season, and again, one of those first episodes is going to be about the movie The Graduate. So he and his crew showed up early in the morning, and one thing that my video isn't going to capture is just how hot and humid it was that day. I think when we first started, it was like 80+% humidity, and temperature was already in the 80s, and I think it peaked somewhere in the low 90s. It was just a brutally hot day. So their first activity was just to set up the lights and camera as well as the seating, and they ended up using our outbuilding where the buses are stored. Fortunately, I haven't quite got to the part where I have finished the walls on it, so the backdrop is going to be the insulation and some of the plastic covering. I don't know, maybe that won't be really noticeable when the final show is out. So once they'd finished doing the setup with the camera and lights, they had myself and the woman doing the interview, Tara Jones, sit down so they could fine-tune the lighting and some of the camera angles. To be honest, I'm not sure how all of this production works, so I was just a casual observer as they did their work.
They had like a base felt.
I can't remember how long the setup took. Maybe an hour from start to finish, from the first time they showed up until they were ready for rolling cameras and doing the interview portion. And even though it was so hot, we couldn't have any of the ventilation fans running or anything else, just for the sound level. But that was understandable given the requirements for doing their television production. And once they had finished that last step of doing their fine-tuning, it was time to actually be interviewed. And they even used one of those little clappers, which made it feel quite official. For some reason, the sound isn't coming through in the software that I'm using to make this video. So to fill in what happens is me stumbling over my lines frequently and doing numerous attempts to kind of get the final shot that he wanted. So before Ted and his crew made a trip to my house, he had sent me the questions that he planned on Tara asking me in the interview, so I could kind of prepare information, specifically some stuff about the bus, its history, some of the numbers and dates. So I took time to actually write out all of my answers and try to prepare for this, and I learned fairly quickly that I'm not really interested in being in front of a camera like that. I mean, it was a wonderful experience, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I'm cut out to sit in front of a camera with all of these people kind of watching and answer these questions, even though I'm probably well suited to answer them. But whatever, it took several takes. They were very nice about the whole thing. Tara was very helpful, and I can't really actually remember how long it took. So let's say maybe an hour, and in that time, they had gotten all of the shots that they needed with me answering the questions and that sort. It was a very pleasant experience. Again, I don't know if I'm interested in doing much more of that. So once the interview portion was done, I brought the bus outside so they could use it as a backdrops for some additional shots that they were going to take. So I'm not actually quite sure what they were talking about. I kind of left them to their own business and just tried to stay out of their way. So I'd imagine that they're talking about the role of the bus in the movie at this point. So you can see the sun was quite high in the sky at this point, so the temperature was still rising. Since I was done, I was able to change out of my interview clothes into something a lot more suitable for being in a hot summer day. But Tara wasn't so lucky. So just like in the movie, the final scene of production for us was to recreate the driving away of the bus down the road. So Ted had quite the stable camera, I guess is what it's called, and he stood in the sunroof of his car. So they positioned themselves behind me after I'd pulled out onto the road. Then we recreated that final scene of the bus pulling away from the camera as I drove down the street. So after they were done filming me, which basically was just a mile down the road, I think, they turned around and came back to the house. And then I continued around the country block, if you will. So the building clouds that were threatening rain all day finally unleashed once we were done. By the time I got back to the house, 5-10 minutes later, quite a bit of rain was falling. And then the final step was to shift the bus into reverse and back it into the driveway.
Ah, it's raining.
So while the rain fell, the wife came out and she spotted the final turn into the driveway as they backed it up. I guess the price you pay for being in a TV show.
Oh, God.
So after that busy day, there was still a bit more footage that Ted wanted to get. So later the next week, he returned to our house to use a drone to get some additional shots. So obviously the first step would be to pull the bus out. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity to let Ted drive the bus. I felt it'd be a real shame for someone to come this far, do all of this work, and not get an opportunity to drive it. We didn't drive the bus that far. It was just up to the edge of the driveway as it exited, or before it exited the garage. Because he wanted to get a shot of the bus actually pulling out with his drone. I felt, it was a good enough experience, I guess, get to drive the bus 40 feet. And I make sure to take an opportunity to take a picture of him in the driver's seat after the completion of his historic drive. And so once the bus was outside, I shut it down, and then Ted went to work using his big fancy drone to get all of the shots that he wanted. It was pretty neat to see, actually. I've never seen a drone of that size. And it probably took maybe 20 minutes or so for him to finish up what he needed. And the real nice thing was he actually gave me a copy of all of that footage. Nice little keepsake from the 2 days of TV production at our house. So 6 months have passed since the production happened at our house, and I know that he's been working on the Graduate episode as well as several others. So hopefully at some point here in the near future we'll get a chance of seeing what the episode looks like that we've been a part of. So at this time, his show Lights, Camera, Location isn't available. He said that he's shopping it around and has some leads on it getting published somewhere. Is that the word for it? Well, available streaming service or on TV or something like that. So I can say I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what it looks like. So, yeah, so that was my experience of having a TV show filmed at our house. So it was a wonderful experience. Everybody that we met, from Ted and Tara, who did the interview, as well as his cameraman and others, were all very nice, and it was actually a lot of fun. Again, I'm not real interested in participating in any other interview thing like this, but I'm glad that I did, and I hope that he got the interview that he wanted, as well as the footage of the bus that he wanted for a show. But it's nice that the history of this vehicle was appreciated by, someone who is in the TV and movie industry. So even though the movie is now over 50 years old, this bus still has some relevance to those that are interested in that. So that was really fun. So despite the pandemic of 2020, one positive thing that happened for us that year was having the TV production at our house and being able to share Unit 23 with people who are interested in the movie and the role that this bus played in it. Thanks for watching.